All right, so I'm on to the next project on the 1984 Mustang. If you watch any of the other videos on this car that I have, basically it sat in my garage for 12 years. Finally got it up and running. We had to do a bunch of other stuff to it, just from sitting, brakes, that kind of thing. New clutch we put in it. But anyway, we've been driving it for a while, and now the new problem is the rear end felt like it was swaying when I was driving it, and there was a clunking noise. So I'm going to slide underneath the car here and show you what I found. All right, so if we make our way up to the upper control arms, and you can see my upper control arms, they were changed. They're not the originals. These are adjustable aftermarket, but they're not new by any means. They were put in, again, over 12 years ago. So they've been in there for a while, and it's been sitting. So if you look at the bushings here, the axle bushings, hopefully you're seeing that. It's pretty much disintegrated. This is the passenger side. If you look up in there, I'm going to try to wiggle it for you a little bit so you can see it moving, but that bushing's completely disintegrated. The other side isn't much better. And here's the driver's side. This one here is not as bad, but you can actually see it better here. There's actually chunks of the bushing missing. So when I'm out driving this thing and I'm kind of getting on it a little bit, it sways pretty bad and you get that clunking noise. So anyway, I got some new bushings for that, so I'll show you those and show you real quick how to change those. Alright, so here's the kit we're going to use, made by Ford Performance. I did look for some new old stock ones, couldn't find any, and quite honestly, being a rubber component, not too sure that I would want something that's been sitting on a shelf for who knows how many years. So anyway, we went with the Ford Performance. Come with the two bushings, a couple C-clips, and some friction modifier. These ran about, I want to say they were $50 or $55. They had some out there, like high performance ones, whatever that entails, but they're about 90 bucks. Didn't really see a reason for those. These are probably about as close as you're going to get to the OEMs, being a Ford product. So that's everything that came with the kit. Little thank you card, and got ourselves a sticker too. All right, so I'm getting ready to try to take this off. Just wanted to mention real quick, once again, these are aftermarket upper control arms, rear upper control arms. If you have your original ones, they're going to be like, I'll call it like a U channel or C channel shaped. So just be prepared that yours may not look like that if you are using this video to do your own. I got the 11/16 socket on here. It went on really tough. I had to tap it on. I tried a couple different 11/16 wrenches, and for some reason it's tight. So I figured it was metric, so I tried 17 millimeter. That didn't really want to go on either, and the 18 millimeter's a little sloppy. But anyway, the guy that put these on for me years ago, I'm not sure if he put a bolt that he had laying around through there or what the story is, but 11/16 should fit. But again, if yours are original, I'm not 100% sure. Just wanted to mention that. On the other side of the bolt here, I want to give you a shot at that. You got your nut right there. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a wrench on here, try to break that free, and then hopefully get an impact gun on the front and see what happens here. Alright, so I got my 18 millimeter wrench on the nut. I took another wrench and I doubled up, and I was able to get that to break free. You can see I can move that now. So I'm going to grab a hold of this wrench. I got my impact set up in the front now, and hoping that does the trick. Alright, so I don't know how you're seeing that. I got my camera rigged up on the ground here, but I got my impact gun on here now. Again, I'm using the 18 millimeter on the back. So there's the bolt I got out, the nut, and pretty much what's left to that bushing. Super brittle. You can see it came out in pieces. The rest of it's on the ground, and I'm sure some of it's down the road from my last trip. So anyway, got the bolt out. I still got to get this sleeve out because obviously it came out in pieces. So we're going to be crawling back underneath there and getting that out, cleaning it up, and getting prepared to put the new ones in. All right, so get your control arm pushed out of your way. If you wanted to, you could remove the whole thing, but usually they'll just swivel out of the way. So what we're left with now is this cup, because the rubber bushing was disintegrated. So now we got to drive this cup out. This is definitely the hardest part. You can see here there's a lip on this side, so it's got to be driven out this way. If you look at the back side, there's no lip. So you can try to get a ball peen hammer like that, and you can try to bang from the back side, try to bang it out. Get a chisel and a hammer, try to get it out that way. Definitely fill this up with some penetrating oil and let that sit a while. But they're definitely difficult to get out. You may have to resort to getting a tool. There's a tool that goes around this. It's got a bolt and like a cup. You basically tighten it up and it drives it out. They're about 50 bucks. Well, they're about 40 bucks time you get done with shipping and everything. They're close to 50. But you can get them from like CJ Pony Parts, Late Model Restoration, those kind of places. I tried to make something. I'll show you that in a second. And hopefully it works. It's kind of on the same principle of that tool. Back in the day when we used to work on these, that tool didn't exist. So we always resorted to banging them out. Torch, an air chisel works real good if you have an air chisel. You can get your chisel behind this lip and just keep working at it. You're going to destroy it a bit, but eventually it will come out. Alright, so this is what I rigged up here. Basically I got a long piece of threaded rod that's going through here. A couple different size sockets. One is the diameter of the back side of the bushing. This diameter here, it's pretty close. I got a 2-inch rigid coupling. That's going to give me my space for that bushing to go into. So this is similar to the tool that they sell. You know, like I said, I had some square washers kicking around. So anyway, is this going to work? I don't know yet. I'm going to find out. But the idea is to use this as a press to press that out. So you could rig something like this up if you have stuff laying around. I wouldn't recommend going out and buying all this stuff, because the time you got done, you could have just bought that tool that's designed for it. But we're going to give this a go and see what happens. Alright, so just want to show you how I got this set up here. Here's the back of the bushing that's got to come out. There's the socket that's right around the same size as that. I think I might have to center that a little better. I got a washer back here, and then I got a nut. Come to the front side. There's that 2-inch rigid coupling. Again, this has to be bigger than the bushing so the bushing can push into it. Got a couple washers and, of course, another nut. So the idea is when I start to tighten this down, that'll start to draw that bushing out. And if you start to get it to draw out a little bit, you might be able to take this off. I mean, if it's working, keep going. But if not, once it starts moving, you might be able to bang it out the rest of the way with a hammer and a chisel, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so you can see how that's starting to pull out now. Came out quite a bit. I had to take it out so I can reposition the tool. But I may see if I can get a pair of channel locks or something on here and just start wiggling it. It's still pretty tight, but it is coming. Alright, so I went as far as I could with that homemade tool that I made to press that bushing out. Worked pretty good on the passenger side. Pushed it out, you know, 3/4 of an inch or so. But that's about as far as it's going to go, because I think the socket's a hair too big to get through the opening. I did try it on the driver's side to see if I can get that to push out that same 3/4 of an inch, but I couldn't even get it in there right, because that side of the rear end had a little bit different shape to it, so I couldn't even get it in there. But anyway, it kind of worked on the driver's side, or excuse me, the passenger side. But now we're going to resort to the air hammer If you don't have one of these, you know, I picked this up at Harbor Freight. I think it was like 15 bucks. Comes with this, the spring, of course, for the end, and you get one chisel. For another 7 bucks, I bought the other chisels because I'll use this for other projects. And plus, I wanted one that was a little bit longer, not much longer, but a little bit anyway. So for roughly 20 bucks, you got yourself an air hammer. So if you have a compressor, this is a route you can go. We're going to see how this works out. I'm thinking this will do it. You know, if not, then you're probably going to have to buy that that $40, $50 tool that's out there. Might be worth the investment. I've never used one. I think I mentioned that earlier. But anyway, I went to Harbor Freight, you know, plus the fact that I don't want to wait for that tool. And so, yeah. So anyway, we're going to try this for 20 bucks. I'll use this. In the future, I also spent another, I think this was 5 or 6 bucks. This is a replacement for the spring, so it's a quick connect so you can change to different bits. So that's that. I'm going to get underneath there, get this thing hooked up to the air compressor, and we'll see what it does. Alright, so finally got that out. Definitely took some effort. You can see what this thing looks like now. That was with using the air chisel, and at one point I had to put the air punch on there. And I actually ended up, this is the front side with the flange, I ended up getting it to a point where I could cut this end off, and then what was left was this, and I actually took the air punch and got a hold of the lip just right, and I actually pushed it out backwards. Once I did that, it just kind of flew out of there. But yeah, these can definitely give you a hard time. Definitely not going to say this is an easy 5-minute thing. The next one may go smoother, just like anything. I removed bearings where 2-3 tugs on the bearing puller comes right out. I've had other times where they break into pieces and you got to spend 3 hours grinding out a bearing race. So it all depends. I'm hoping the second one goes easier, but it'll definitely go. You just got to be patient with it. Alright, so there's a look at it with the bushing out of there. Doesn't look like much once you get that thing out of there, but they're pressed in there, so they've been in there as long as this one has. They're definitely going to fight you, but it'll go. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to take some brake clean or some mineral spirits or something. We're going to clean the inside of this really good. Make sure you don't have any burrs, and then we're going to get the new one in. Alright, so another important thing, make sure you do, kind of goes without saying, but definitely get yourself jacked up and supported properly, and work on one side at a time. In other words, say you start on the passenger side like I did, remove the old bushing, put the new bushing in, hook your control arm back up, and then move to the next side. Because this rear end actually can pivot if you got both sides undone. Not a lot, but enough to get you out of alignment. I mean, you can get it straightened back out again and get it back together, but definitely do one side at a time. Makes life a lot easier. Alright, so I'm getting ready to put the new bushing in now. Before we do that, again, you're going to clean it up really good, make sure you don't have burrs, and then we're going to go ahead and lubricate the inside of that hole. You can use some type of grease, bearing grease or whatever. I'm going to use Never Seas or Anti-Seize for a couple different reasons. A, it's a good lubricant as far as getting this bushing pressed back in. And secondly, if I'm the guy or whoever the next guy is has to take these out, it might make your life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and get that lubed up, and we'll start tapping this guy back in. All right, so basically you're going to keep pounding on this guy. Try to use a block of wood as much as you can. I mean, the wood bounces a little bit, gets a little monotonous. I mean, you can give this a couple whacks. Just be careful. Obviously, you don't want to distort it. What else can I say? I'm about halfway there. You want about a 1/4 of an inch gap from this lip to the back here. You know, roughly, you know, I don't know. I guess I would say that much. Roughly a 1/4 inch. You could take a look at your other side and use that as a reference. All right, so anyway, I'm going to keep pounding at this. It's going in, but it's going in slow. You know, obviously they're in there super tight. So yeah, just keep banging away at it. You know, again, I'll mention that tool again. If you had that tool, that's for removal and for installation. So again, if you feel better spending 40, 50 bucks, probably not a bad idea. But anyway, I'm going to keep banging away. All right, so get your upper control arm back in place. Get your bolt. I lube that up a little bit with some Never Seas as well. All right, so once you get your bolt all the way through, obviously you're going to take your nut. You should get new nuts. These are lock nuts. I don't know if that's showing up on camera, but they're kind of oblong, and you really should replace them. But for now, I'm going to put this one back on because that's all I have. All right, so this has an 8.8 rear end in it. This is a 1984. 1984 actually had a 7.5. This is obviously not the original rear end. So the torque specs on this, I believe for an 87 to 93, I think is between 70 and 100 foot-pounds. So I'll probably end up doing about 90 foot-pounds. So anyway, make sure you get a torque wrench. I'm not going to bore you with that on the video. Get your torque wrench, set it for about 90 foot-pounds, and torque that guy down. That's important. If not, this thing will go bouncing down the road. So that's this side. We're going to move to the other side. I'm going to do that side a little bit different, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. All right, so this side here, you can see the inside. The bushing itself is already out. It was dry rotted, and hopefully you're seeing that flange there. What I'm going to do on this side is I'm actually going to cut this flange off, and then I'm going to work this way, pushing what's left of it out that way with the air hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that lip off first. All right, so there it is with the flange cut off. Hopefully you're seeing that. There's part of it. All right, now we're going to take our air hammer, and the idea is we're going to get this to kind of push this in, and then we're going to try to work it with the bit to push it out that way. So I'm going to get set up for that, and we'll see how it goes. Just wanted to give you a quick look at the other side. Obviously the other side doesn't have a flange, so that's why I decided to cut that off and push it that way, just because there's better access with the air hammer on the other side. To get up around this pumpkin and try to get at that to push it the other way would be near impossible. Alright, so there she is. That actually made for some quick work. To be honest with you, it was a lot quicker than the other side. So if you're set up with a air chisel like that, I did soak this in some penetrating oil before I did it, so I'm sure that helped, but you saw how quick that went. Took less than a minute to get this out. So anyway, that's out. We're going to do the same thing we did with the other side. We're going to clean the inside of that really good and put a little never seize on there. You can see I hit it a couple times with the hammer drill there, or air chisel rather. No biggie. But anyway, we're going to clean that up, put a little never seize in there. We're going to put that bushing in and get this bolt in. Maybe I'll show real quick torquing them down, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so we got that one knocked in the rest of the way. My video messed up, so I didn't get a lot of that on video. Same thing as the other side. You just got to whack it in, you know, again, unless you got that tool. You know, I used wood as much as I could. I'm going to be honest with you. It bounces quite a bit. It gets it in there part of the way, but eventually you got to take your, you know, your heavy-duty ball peen and, you know, you got to wrap on this a little bit. Don't just pick one spot and keep hitting it. Obviously, just kind of try to move around and just slowly went in, you know, 1/8 of an inch at a time. But eventually, we got it where we needed it. You know, and just be careful, obviously, not to damage the lip of this. This got bent a tiny bit. Nothing I'm too concerned about. But they go in tight for sure. And make sure you're checking as you're going along that your control arm is going to line up. You don't want to overdrive it in. If you do, then this may not line up right because there's not a lot of side-to-side play on these. So just kind of get it in part way, check it, make sure it's going to line up. Like so. We're going to throw the other bolt in, torque it down, and we're going to call it a wrap. Alright, now that we got that nut started on the other side, I'm going to take my impact right here, 18 millimeter. The head of the bolt is 18 millimeter, and the nut on the back is 18 millimeter. So I'm going to take the wrench, obviously, I'm going to go on the nut on the back, and then I'm going to drive it with my driver, and then I'll throw my torque wrench on. I'm going to do that off camera. I don't have my camera stand with me, so it's going to be a little tough to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so all done. Torque down. This guy's torqued down. So that's it. Again, not an easy job, but it can be done in the garage, on the ground. Could be done in your driveway. I know a lot of guys will actually drop the rear end completely just to do these. In my opinion, that's a lot more work. Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle underneath the car like this. For sure, that brake line gets in your way. You got to be careful of that. You don't have a lot of room to swing a hammer. But anyway, obviously it can be done. And yeah, so that's that. Hope the video helped somebody. If you got to do this, take your time and you'll get there.